Hi there, it's Phil here. Today I'm going to go through profiles within Ecamm and how they can really help you, especially if you're making lots of different broadcasts or different lessons within Ecamm using the scenes and the overlays. It's going to be really good for you to know what you can use and how you can manage the overlays within Ecamm. And we'll also be covering which elements are included when you save a profile and which ones are excluded, with a couple of other additional tips. So firstly, we're going to jump to a screen share where I can show you how to manage profiles. Now, you can't do this while you're recording or broadcasting because some of the features are grayed out on the profiles menu. So once we've done that, return back here and we'll show you within Ecamm Live in demo mode how all of this works for you. So I'll show you the profiles folder within Ecamm. Now, you can't be using Ecamm in a broadcast or a recording mode to do this. So if you're in the middle of a broadcast or you're recording for yourself, there's a limited number of options available to you for the profiles window or profiles drop down box. Anyway, it's just up here at the top of the screen. You click on that. The first thing you can do is create a new blank profile. Now, if you create a new blank profile, I'll do the same. So if I click on that and we just call it new, let's actually call it blank profile. I'll click OK. And you see that it naturally just uses my default camera. I have a single scene and you have to build everything from there. So I'd have to select the right camera, the right sources, and build my scenes and overlays from a blank start. So that's a really good place if you want to start building elements that are going to be used as a default for you throughout a number of other broadcasts that you're going to be making. So then what you could do, well, what we'll do is we'll go back here and you see that that new blank profile is listed, but my original profiles demo is still here, so I can return to it. So let me do that. And now we're back to the profiles demo profile. My new blank profile is still there and I could return to that if I wanted to. So you can have any number of profiles that you've built in a list below this main part of the section. You can duplicate the current profile. So if I click on duplicate, Ecamm says, what do you want to call it? So I can call it profile number 2 and click on OK, and I'm then automatically in that profile. Okay, and it started to run it from the first scene. We can check that we're in there, so I'm profile number 2 and it's the one that's ticked. If I want to return to the other one, I can simply click on the profiles demo area. You can delete the current profile. So let me do that. So I know I've just built one, but let me delete it. And once I've done that, you'll see it's not in the list. Now, if I want to save a profile, the terminology is actually to export it. So you go to the export button, export current, and I'll very quickly go to here and create a new folder called profiles. And export it into that folder. Okay, let me show that profiles folder. That profiles folder now is here, and we have a file in there called profiles demo, and it's got an extension of Ecamm Profile. The size of the profile is fully dependent upon the graphics that are included within your broadcast, within all of the scenes and the overlays that you have for that broadcast, for that profile. Okay, now what we'll do is we'll go back to the blank profile, which you remember was very dull. And here I am back in my blank profile. And what I'm going to do is drag in this profiles demo file onto the main window. The other thing I could do to launch a profile is to go to the profiles area here and click it there, which is obviously easier. But if you've deleted it, then it won't be in this list. However, deleting the profile will not remove the profile from wherever you've saved your original profiles. It just deletes it from the list, not deleting the main file. So in fact, just to prove that, let's go profiles demo, and I will take the drastic action of deleting that profile. So now I've only got my blank profile to play with, but notice that my saved profile is still available. So I can now drag it onto the main window, and it is now imported, and all of my scenes and all of the graphics are available to me. That's because all of the graphics were and still are in the folder, the original folder from where they were built into here. So this is a critical learning. If your original files are in the same folder, then they stay and remain working in your profile. So we're in demo mode, and what I'd like to show you is that we've got this orange folder which contains all of the elements that I've used to build into the scenes and the overlays that we have here within Ecamm. What I've also done, to clarify with you, is we've dragged in from this profiles folder, we've dragged in this Ecamm profile. So essentially what we started off doing was we exported the current profile, which hopefully was going to save as many of these elements as possible. So we exported it, called it Ecamm Profiles Demo, or Profiles Demo, Ecamm Profile, and we've re-imported that. So now we'll do the test to see which elements stay within the presentation, within the broadcast, within the profile, if you move a profile to a new computer. Now, one thing I would say is that when you're building your broadcasts and your scenes and your overlays, if you leave them all in the same folders from where they came, never move them, then Ecamm generally will pick up those elements and know where to get them from originally. If you start to move those assets to different folders, then it's very likely that Ecamm will lose the track of the links and not be able to play those elements within your broadcast until you've relocated and relinked them. This is really where profiles come in. It's so that you can move your elements to a different computer or a different location and they get saved within the profile. But there are limitations, and really that's what we're going to learn here right now. So let's have a look at the way we're going to do this. Anything that's built within Ecamm's own confines, using, let's say, the text overlays, maybe the countdown timer, those kind of things, they stay within the Ecamm system, and they will certainly be included into an Ecamm profile. What isn't included is your cameras. So if you move to a different computer and your camera is connected separately, it's very likely that you're going to have to reset the cameras. Similarly, if you're screen sharing, typically what you're doing is screen sharing another screen or an application. You're going to have another screen, and you're going to have to run that application on the other computer in order for those elements to work properly. The kind of placeholders are still there, but they'll be waiting for you to fill them with the right application, and you'll see that as we go along. Okay, first scene. So we have a typical Ecamm graphic at the top that dropped in from the top there. Let's move very quickly to the next scene down, which is this one. This scene contains a GIF file, a TIFF file, a JPEG, and my nameplate is a PNG. All of these files are included and get embedded into an Ecamm profile, so you can be sure that they will come over with your profile to a new computer or a new location. Let's just check that out. Let's move some of these files out. So I'm going to move out the GIF file, the JPEG file, and the TIFF file. And let's move out my own nameplate. So all of those have now moved to a different location. If I come back to my default scene, okay, and then I jump back down to the scene where all of those elements once were, we see that they all arrive. So the fact that I've moved them out, Ecamm hasn't forgotten them and is still working with those. So that's great. Let's move on to the next scene. So that little animation is a WebM file. That was the one that brought in the Ecamm logo. Let's just run it one more time. Okay, so that's that one there. We've also got an animation here which was my name, but that's a movie file. And I've got another one which is a different kind of movie file, which is a Buy Me a Coffee file, but that's an HEVC movie file. None of those elements will be included in, if you move those elements to a new location on your computer and you haven't saved them as a profile, then Ecamm will not be able to find them and not be able to play them. But if you've saved them in a profile and you've relocated and you've reloaded that profile, let's see what happens. So we've gone through that. So let's move out my my movie for my name, my Buy Me a Coffee, and I'll move out the last one, which was the WebM file. So those were all of the files that originally existed in this scene. Let's go, and I'll just go back to my default scene. So we'll start there, and then I'll jump to this movie scene and see what elements have stayed in position. So I don't think, so it appears to me very strangely that the HEVC movie has stayed there. The WebM gets embedded and stays there, but for some reason the other movie file that I've got isn't included. It's a bit strange. Don't know why that's the case, but that certainly seems to have happened. So I've moved those out of position and those two are still playing. Let's just clarify and do that one more time. We'll go back. So if I go to that scene, let's see what stays there. And certainly those two do, but my standard movie of my own graphic doesn't seem to want to play. So a bit of an interesting one. So maybe there's something special about HEVC movie files. Let's move on to a very interesting file here. This essentially includes this large full-scale movie, which is some rotating circles, plus it has some text which is built within Ecamm. So let's run that. Okay, so let's come back a bit. What you also heard there was some sound which is included in the sound effects folder down at the bottom here. So essentially I can move out the rotating circles to the main kind of color graphic, and the sound was this digital ghosts sound, but it's actually embedded in the sound effects folder. Let's go back to that window now and see what happens. So what you can see, or what you can hear, is that it basically says, can I locate the movie file? Because that movie file has not been embedded into the Ecamm profile. So I would have to click on locate file, go to the new location of that file, and then Ecamm would be able to run it. However, you can quite clearly hear that the music is still running in the background. So that music that's included in the sound effects window does come over. The fact that I haven't located the file means that the other elements won't run. So let's see what happens if I now locate the file, which I've moved into this moved elements folder. Let's try it. And it's this rotating circles move. Let's go open. So it did work then. So you can, so long as you've got the file available to you, you can find it through the locate the file and it will play. But just to reiterate, that will not be saved within an Ecamm profile file. Okay, we've moved on. So we're now in a screen share type of overlay, which is going to show a Keynote presentation. However, the Keynote presentation that I've got, I actually loaded it from a particular place here, and just wanted to kind of confirm that this will not be included in your Ecamm profile. So we'll run the Keynote right now, if I can. Let's just see if I can run it, and you can see it's running there. So realistically, you shouldn't be expecting the Ecamm profile to take any other data with it when you're screen sharing, which is essentially what we're doing here. A couple of little things about running Keynote though within Ecamm is that you can scroll on the screen share overlay and make it go full screen. So that's very nice and easy to do. So also where you can put your cursor, if you scroll up, it will return back to that area, and it's really trying to follow where your cursor is. Also, if you hold down the Shift key and you scroll up, then you decrease the opacity of the file. And this happens with all of the graphics within Ecamm. So that then means that it becomes transparent, and you can use your hands to point to things within that transparent file, a little bit Prezi-like. They're not on their own in being able to do that. So you could also use that with increasing the size of the file to your whole screen, and you can point to things in your presentation. So that's really quite nice. Let's reduce that back down to the size. So I'm just scrolling up with the scroll wheel, and I press and hold down the Shift key and drag down, and that will increase the opacity back to the full opacity. So let's move on to the next thing, which is the PDF. Oh, well, actually, let's carry on back. Let's go back to move the Keynote file out. And moving the Keynote file out essentially leaves you then with a screen share overlay. And if I click on it here, then this is where you then choose whatever else you're going to share. Obviously you need Keynote to be running, but that's why we've got this funny looking graphic here in place. Let's move on to a PDF. Let's see what happens with the PDF. So I've got a PDF file there. I think I can go back in pages. Yes, I can go back a few pages and forward pages, which is another really nice trick within Ecamm, just using your arrow keys left and right. Okay, so that's there. Let's move the PDF file out of that window and see if that was saved with the Ecamm profile. So I'll go back to my original default scene, move the PDF file out, return to the scene with the PDF file embedded in it as an overlay, and you can see it stays there. So PDF files are saved within a Ecamm profile, so that's really good to know. Okay, so let's just clarify what we've seen here. We've seen that PDF files, JPEGs, GIFs, TIFFs and PNGs all get included with the profile and can be transported to another computer. Also, any music that's included in the sound effects, that goes along as well. Finally, the things that don't get included are movie files, .mov files, .mp4 files also do not come with you, and you'd have to use Ecamm to relocate those files if they're in a new folder, if you've moved them away somewhere. So thanks for watching. I hope you've found this useful. If you've got any comments you'd like to make or any questions regarding Ecamm, please leave messages in the comments area below. Please subscribe to the channel, and thank you for watching. So hopefully you'll join me again in the near future. Thanks a lot now. Bye.